On the morning of March 7th, 1926, a group of engineers attempted something many believed should not work. They were going to send a human voice across the Atlantic Ocean without a cable. If the signal was too weak, the ocean would swallow it. If it was too strong, it would dissolve into static. If the atmosphere shifted at the wrong moment, the entire experiment would fail. At 8 o'clock in the morning in New York, they began anyway. A man lifted a telephone receiver. 3,000 miles away in London, someone answered. For centuries, the Atlantic had enforced distance. Ships took days. Telegraph messages crossed by cable in bursts of Morse code. But a living, breathing human voice had never crossed that ocean through open air. Until this week. Welcome back to This Week, 100 years ago. This episode looks at the 7 days between March 2nd and March 8th, 1926. And this was the week the Atlantic stopped being a barrier. By the 1920s, wireless radio was already established, but it was mostly used for Morse code. Dots and dashes are resilient. Even distorted signals can carry them. Speech is different. A human voice carries tone, emphasis, hesitation, breath. Strip away too much detail, and it becomes noise. To send a voice across 3,000 miles required 3 breakthroughs. First, power. Enough transmission strength to push a signal beyond the curvature of the Earth. Second, stability. A clean carrier wave that could be modulated, meaning the electrical pattern of speech could ride along it without collapsing. And third, the cooperation of the sky itself. Certain shortwave radio frequencies behave in an extraordinary way. Instead of traveling endlessly into space, they strike charged layers high in the atmosphere, what we now call the ionosphere, and reflect back down toward Earth. In simple terms, the signal goes up, bends, and comes down somewhere far beyond the horizon. In 1926, engineers realized they could use that phenomenon to leapfrog the Atlantic entirely. On March 7th, chosen deliberately as the 50th anniversary of Alexander Graham Bell's telephone patent, engineers from American Telephone and Telegraph in New York and the British Post Office staged the first public demonstration of wireless transatlantic radiotelephony. The test began at 8 in the morning in New York, 1 in the afternoon in London. It lasted 4 hours. Microphones in Manhattan were connected to powerful transmitters. Across the ocean, British receiving stations captured faint incoming signals and fed them into the London telephone network. Press observers were present on both sides. When the first exchanges took place, many expected distortion. Instead, they heard recognizable speech. The March 1926 test did not immediately open commercial service, but it proved something irreversible. Distance no longer required a cable. A year later, on January 7th, 1927, the first official commercial transatlantic radio telephone service was inaugurated. The call was placed between Walter S. Gifford, president of AT&T in New York, and Sir Evelyn P. Murray in London. And that inauguration was recorded. When the Atlantic was crossed officially for the first time as a commercial service, it sounded like this.
You are talking rather closely?
I was talking perhaps a little bit too closely.
I see.
Now I'm talking a little farther away from the transmitter, and possibly my quality will be a little better. Do you notice any difference now?
It seems to be a little better now.
That recording is from 1927, but it exists because of what happened in March 1926. In 1 week, a voice leapt across an ocean. Science accelerated. Thank you for watching. If you're enjoying exploring history exactly 100 years later, consider subscribing. And join me next week when the world moves again.